Welcome to this episode of Just the Dis. My name is Brian Sauer, and this is my podcast about Blu-rays. And joining me today is longtime friend and founder of Fun City Editions, basically the curator, the one-man show behind that label, which is one of my favorite labels out there right now, Mr. Jonathan Hertzberg. Thank you, sir, for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Brian. As I mentioned to you when we were texting before, I'm pretty sure yours this is the first podcast I ever went on to talk about Fun City Editions.
I love
So
that. I love that. It's serendipitous because you and I, we've talked about it on the show before. We've known each other for a very long time, and it has been so delightful for me to see Fun City expand into the, I think, I don't want to get carried away, but juggernaut that it is in terms of the great stuff that you're doing. I'm sorry, I don't want to embarrass you with this stuff, but I love what you're doing, and I've said it a lot on the show. And today we are here to talk about your latest release, which is Born to Win from 1971. And this is a really interesting movie, a great Fun City movie, a great New York City movie. I want to talk briefly, though, about, one thing I love about what you guys do, or what you do. I want to say you guys, it's literally just you.
no, no, there's other people that are key helpers, or help, who make this thing go. So you guys is not so inappropriate.
Okay, fair enough. But one thing that Fun City does as a regular thing is you do new transfers for your titles, and Born to Win is one of those that had weirdly fallen into some kind of public domain place wherein you couldn't really see it outside of pretty crappy editions. Now, do you want to talk about what you did with this in terms of your transfer?
Yeah, I'm not even really sure if the movie's in the public domain or if it just got treated that sometimes some movies get treated as if they are, but maybe legally they're not really. I don't know what happened with Born to Win. I do know that Born to Win was originally titled Scraping Bottom, and the name got changed fairly late in the game. I don't know if that had something to do with it, but you can see the beginning of the movie. There is a copyright notice on the title card. But anyway, neither here nor there. It's never been available, as you said, at least in the US, on any decent home video edition. It's just all been sort of like bootleg Poverty Row kind of editions that are using like a cut TV print. Looks really ragged. So we went back to the IP, the interpositive that MGM holds for the movie, and did a 2K scan, and then color grade and restoration on that element. So it really looks, I mean, it's a pretty, you watch the movie, I mean, it's
Yeah.
low budget film. It's filmed, in the grimy New York City, of the early 70s. And this, it looks but I mean, it looks, if you've seen any of the other versions out there, it looks like, I mean, worlds better. So I'm very,
Absolutely.
very happy about that.
Absolutely night and day. Like, it looks like, I would say, gorgeous. I know you guys love to go back to the original camera negative when you can, but the interpositive, I mean, it's such a huge step up from what I was used to that it just was, again, one of those things you hear a lot. It was almost like watching a new movie. And because it was that cut TV print you're talking about, obviously you are seeing kind of a new movie.
Right.
So briefly, let's touch on, before we get into the actual movie itself, let's touch on Ivan Passer, the director.
Mhm.
He's he's a Czech filmmaker, sort of part of the Czech New Wave. Worked with Milos Forman. I want to say he's co-writer or writer on Fireman's Ball and Loves of a Blonde. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe so. I think you're
Yeah.
right. But I
Yes.
mean, you have his credits up there. You can
Yeah. So like,
verify for sure.
yeah, absolutely. But so you and I bonded, I think, early on over one of his later films, Cutter's Way,
Mm.
which I still think is one of the great films in the 1980s, one of the great performances of Jeff Bridges, one of the great performances of John Hurt. I know you agree with me 100% across the board.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that Cutter's Way is probably the first of his films that I saw, sometime, in the 90s, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just
Yeah.
remarkable. But I love that we've been talking about that movie for years, and that, that came out from Twilight Time, and now it's getting a new edition from Imprint. So that's well represented on Blu-ray. But I love that you're bringing another Ivan Passer film that is like very underrepresented. And this film, I was noticing the Safdies are a big fan. It seems to be they're talking about in terms of influence on things like Uncut Gems, and I would say Good Time. Seems like a big film for them, and they say something about it being not movies about winners, or not movies about losers, but winners that don't win is what they call it, which I thought was really interesting.
Oh, I didn't see that. Yeah, but they have definitely been, they've definitely publicly stated their affinity for Born to Win, and yeah, you can totally, you can draw those connections, thematically, narratively from Born to Win to those later films, New York films of the Safdies. You've got like a character who's kind of constantly on the run, constantly fending off, various opposing forces, and the world's kind of closing in on them. And, it's manic and, very tense, and usually taking place over kind of a compressed time period. And yeah, Born to Win is all that. Also with some dark humor, sprinkled in too.
Yeah, that's
I
one of
think
the
it's
things
important to remember that.
Totally. No, and actually one of the things I love about the movie is that it sort of tone shifts a bit, we can, let's, while we're on it, let's just, do you have a summary for the film? Like, how would you summarize what it's about if somebody asked you?
Sure. It's a film about George Segal playing a junkie in New York City in the early 70s, and just his struggles to basically to get another fix, and running from the law, and running from various people that he's either ripped off, or who want to do him harm for one reason or another. And and then it's just, there's a romantic subplot sprinkled in, which is what gives us, the great Karen Black in the movie. So in the midst of this guy, constantly kind of falling down and getting back up again, he's also somehow, somehow lucked into this, because Karen Black is not an addict in the movie, but she's kind of, she's kind of a hippie, kind of, kooky sort, and somehow she sees something in George Segal's character. So that's basically what's going on. But it's really, it's more about the place and the time, and it's sort of similar to something like we talked about earlier, way back, our first release with Alphabet City, where I think it's as much about the mood that time and place evokes as it is about a plot or narrative.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the milieu of 42nd Street, and just, as you have said before, dirty old New York of that period. It's funny. What's the name of the mayor that passed the Fun City, made it Fun City, basically?
Oh, well, John Lindsay was the mayor who where that term came from, because he said it, not trying to be ironic, during a transit strike, saying he was riding his bike around town and it was still a fun city. So, the tabloids kind of used that against him, and then it sort of became this, nickname for the city that was kind of, ironic, because the city was in kind of in bad shape at the time.
Yeah.
And also funny. The other thing that he did was he established the official sort of New York City, the machinery, basically the office to set up films, TV shows, to be able to film in the city legally, and with the assistance of police and other facilities that the city, and services that the city could provide to those productions.
Yeah, no, it's super neat. I think it was called like Executive Order Number 10. This comes up in the commentary track, which I'll touch on later. But but really interesting, because it was a really difficult thing to film in New York for a long time, and then they made it easy. It's like one set of paperwork and you're good to go. However, it's meant as I think supposed to be something that's good for tourism, but ultimately the city, apparently had some budget issues, and during the subsequent years, and then you get to see a city kind of in trouble, and that's what we kind
Yeah.
of love, but in a way it doesn't sell New
Yeah.
York as the
Right.
best.
No, it's very ironic that at the time that this, ordinance passed, and that this thing, this entity took shape, the mayor's office for film and television. I'm not sure of the exact name, but it's changed names over the years. But it's just ironic that it happened when the city was, not at its best. So yeah, you're right. It's absolutely, because it was the time of not only Fun City but Fear City. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I think it's become a really neat thing to look back at the city as a dangerous place. Like, no, I don't know how the neat isn't maybe the right word, but it's just there's something really interesting about it. And this is a great example of a movie that's taking place on the streets of New York in what doesn't look like a safe place to be. And it adds this other level of drama to it that I've always loved. And it's just neat to see old 42nd Street and everything, Segal walking around. Segal's character is so charming in this movie. And the movie opens with a really great, it's edited by Ralph Rosenblum, who had already worked with Woody Allen, would work with Woody Allen later. Really well cut film. And this opening sequence that I love is just him. He's like a former hairdresser, I guess, and he's sort of
right.
talking about himself. And it's just like two camera, him sort of giving his life philosophies. And it's such a great way to start the movie, and gives you a sense of like how this guy is able to continue to score his next fix, but B, just continue to charm people like Karen Black. And there's a great opening bit with a safe that is
Oh
all
yeah, yeah,
about
yeah,
his
yeah, yeah.
charm. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
it's a
No, that cracks me up. Yeah, it's
he's
interesting. Yeah,
he's great.
the movie starts off in sort of this, like, almost like pseudo documentary way, where he's talking straight to the camera, as if he's being like interviewed for, for a documentary or something. Uh,
It's really cool. And this is a period, I was just going to touch on some of the actors involved and what they were doing at the time. I mean, Segal, to me, one of my favorite actors from this period, a unconventional leading man for sure,
yeah,
and a guy who had done, like, I'm looking at the run of movies he has here. He does Where's Papa and Loving in 1970. He does Born to Win in 71. He does The Hot Rock in 72. He does Bloom in Love in 73. California Split, which is one of my favorite films of the 1970s, in 74. And then Fun with Dick and Jane and Roller Coaster in 77. I really like Roller Coaster. What are your thoughts on Segal as an actor?
oh, I mean, Siegel. Well, first of all, I think it's interesting, as you said, unconventional leading man. I believe someone mentioned, I saw somewhere on social media recently, like he's the first. He might be the first Jewish actor, or one of the first, to not have, changed his name
Yeah.
for show business. Still uses the, more ethnic Siegel. Um, yeah, like just so many of those movies that you touched on, like. I mean, California Split is a little better known than Born to Win, but there's definitely some ties. I feel like connections between that film and in this film, where he does play like another, it's another character who's kind of where like the world is closing in, where there's,
Yeah.
where there's like humor, and then which he plays really well also, but also some like, some real danger, and some really kind of there's crisis moments also. Another one like that is Loving, which he had done in New York. This is another favorite Fun City movie of mine, from the year before Born to Win, whereas he's again playing like a character who's just got like tons of stuff going on bad in his life. It's like a short, and he's hustling. He's always hustling. He's always sort of um holding off the dogs. um yeah, so yeah, and he was just brilliant at that, and he was a native New Yorker, and I think that also
I didn't
I
know
think
that.
that also that brings I think some of his energy, that manic that energy, and also that hustle,
Yeah.
I think is sort of inherent in the native New Yorker.
Yeah, definitely. No, I didn't realize it totally makes sense, of course. And I love, you know, California Split, your point about I would make an interesting double bill with this. You know, it really does have a lot of similarities in a way that I hadn't even connected as much. And
Loving in this would be a good double bill too, because they're like
yeah,
right one after the other. It's kind of like, oh, maybe that could have been this character in some ways. It's almost like, oh, it could be his character from Loving taking like a really bad turn, because as you watch in Born to Win, you know, you see Paula Prentice, who's very highly billed in Born to Win, even though her part is actually pretty small, playing his wife, who's now turning tricks, also because she's also hooked. It seemed, and it makes it seem like he got George Segal got her hooked, and then their two kids are off in California with her mother. But it almost seems like that, you know, in the previous film in Loving, we saw how his, like, he has a home life, he has a wife, his marriage is falling apart, he has kids, and you know, anyway, who
no,
knows? This
that's
guy was
great.
a hairdresser. His character in Loving is an ad man, but you know, but basically the point being, that guy who was on a certain perch had a certain level of stature, you know, had a certain stature, had a family, had a job, and it all came, you know, crumbling down.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that is dark stuff, you know, like you say. But it's funny that the movie can maintain some levity. I would say for the good portion of the first part of the movie, there's a
Mm,
lot of levity, and it starts to then, you know, I would say even up like you get up to, there's a great meet cute with Karen Black
mm,
where he's like stealing her car, and
right.
it's one of my favorite meet cutes of this kind, and she is just so delightful. I mean, another actor who's doing some of the best work. I mean, she's like, obviously, you know, she does Easy Rider. She does Five Easy Pieces in 1970. She
Yeah.
does Cisco Pike. Incredible. Sort of a
No,
similar
it's
character to
yeah,
Cisco Pike.
it's just basically all these people are at the top of their game, and also it speaks obviously to, you know, the state of American mainstream filmmaking at the time. Just the like the you know, that we're talking about these movies, and it's sort of like one classic, or you know, buried treasure, hidden gem after another.
Yeah. No, I mean, she had an incredible run. I mean, Drive, you said, The Outfit, Airport 75, Nashville, Family Plot. I mean, these are all films I love that she did that time. And then you get appearances from guys like Hector Elizondo playing the geek, who's really good in this and was playing a
Right.
lot of heavies back then, was one of the darkest characters in Taking a Pelham 123,
Yeah,
and
right.
really good in this movie.
Oh yeah, no, he's menacing. He's really there's a line that always sticks with me, which I used in the Dirty Old New York, aka Fun City video series, which was when he says to, I think he says it to young Robert De Niro, who's another
Yeah.
one of the, you know, amazing supporting cast in this movie. He says, I think the only good junkie is a dead junkie. I think that's what he says.
Yeah. I
Or
feel like
the only good addict is a dead addict.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I thought that's funny, because I was like, well, that's your clientele though, man.
No, totally. Yeah, he's a dealer, and he is definitely shady. De Niro plays a sort of an undercover cop, and he's sort of very low, very early in his career. I mean, he'd done the late '60s comedies with Brian De Palma, Greetings and Hi Mom,
Mhm.
prior to this. But
Right.
really, this is pre Mean Streets. It's pre Godfather 2, obviously pre Taxi Driver, and
Yeah.
you you notice him, but he doesn't do a ton in the movie. It's just neat to see him in there, you know?
Right, but he's kind of fully formed already. I feel like
Sure.
he's already got a lot of the ticks, and the just that's just sort of like, um you know, his expressiveness is there. Apparently he almost got fired off of Born to Win, because
Oh,
he was
really?
apparently just kept trying to do business in his scenes that would take away from the other actors. He's, you know, trying to upstage George Segal and Karen Black and whoever else was in the scene. So yeah.
Wow, not surprising. He has a really good scene late in the film with Elizondo and George Segal that
Yeah.
gives him a moment to shine, which is really neat to have towards the end of the movie. Now, in terms of the locales, like you'd know this better than I would. I'm seeing 42nd Street. Is it in and around that area exclusively? I feel like they're all over. You know that. Well, what are some of the locations that they're hitting?
So yeah, a lot of it is filmed around the, you know, 42nd Street, Times Square area. And it's really, I mean, it's really you know, like so many of these movies, it's a documentary of that place during that time, and you can see how it's a undergoing transition. There's a lot of big buildings that are going up. Like you can see construction in the backgrounds of scenes. You can see like, you know, big towers that are in the middle of construction. And, you know, and if you go back on like Google Maps now and like compare, like you figure out where the street was in the movie, and it's just like the whole block's been leveled. You know, the movie, you can still see all these pre-war buildings, and now it's just like, you know, they're all, you know, big, you know, huge hotels and you know,
Crazy.
other like, you know, just all metal, glass and metal, you know, skyscrapers. So this movie really kind of shows it, you know, in the middle of one of those transition periods, you know, long before it became a tourist area, you know, which is, well, this is something which I think is this movie does well, is that even though it's in New York and it's the big mean city, there's something almost small town, almost feels small townish in some ways. How because you sort of have George Segal kind of running into the same characters, and you know they all seem to know where to find him, and you know vice versa. Which sort of goes against the idea of like being able to get lost in the big city. And there, I mean, that's something that I think is a thing of the past. I mean, I feel like there is some truth to it in the city at that time, because it was kind of because it wasn't a place that people were wanting to go or be if they for you know in a lot of ways if they didn't have to be there, you know, obviously like it wasn't a great, you know, there wasn't a great tourist pitch at the time for, you know, for New York, especially that part of the city where there's, you know, so much vice, you know, and other crime happening there, you know, pretty regularly. It was just not a place that people who lived in the city really, you know, wanted to be in or be in at a certain hour
Yeah.
of the night.
Yeah, I can see
But
that.
other places that they filmed, there's a bar that like kind of seems to be the place where Hector Elizondo does a lot of his business, and they have a few scenes there, and that was actually a real bar, and it was actually on like the Upper East Side, so it was a different location, but I forgot what it was called, but it's the real place, which is pretty
Nice.
cool that they actually you know, filmed in a real bar. They didn't change the name, and they say the address, and it's like a bar where like shit is going down. You know, it's like they're cooking. You know, they're like cooking drugs in there and stuff. And so I think that's pretty cool that they were just able to. And that was probably, I am guessing, because the writer and passer, the writer is David Milton. Is that the writer's name?
I think so.
Um,
Based on a play, right?
yeah. Yeah, and
Oh
he
yeah,
and
based on
Pastor,
his real experiences, right, with junkies, right?
yeah, the people that are real, I think there's people in the movie that are real junkies, and they definitely interviewed a lot of real, you know, real addicts, and you know, kind of so I think probably a lot of these places like that bar are the real places that where stuff was happening, and you know, they actually got to film there. You know, which happened at, you know, at different times in movies made in New York at that time. I mean, Dog Day Afternoon's a famous example of that. You know, the actual bank, right? I mean, it's the real bank, I believe, where they actually where the thing, you know, actually happened.
Crazy.
So at least it's the same neighborhood.
No,
It's
no, no.
close.
That's I love that stuff, and I
Yeah.
love on location shooting, and it really gives that character to the movie that makes it stand out to me. I just love that there's still 70s movies that I feel like people need to discover, because I think the 70s has gotten a lot of love in the last
Right.
10, 15 years, especially on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
But this is one that I just love that you were able to resurrect, because it is a really great movie, and it's got, like I said, that those tonal shifts of comedy and
Mhm.
darkness, and it can get heavy, and Siegel can play it all. And I
Yeah.
was really, really impressed. Again, having only seen it in the crappy versions previous, this new Blu-ray, beautiful slipcover, by the way. Whoops.
Yeah. Thank you. That's that design is by Luke Insect.
Mm-hmm.
He's done a lot of record covers, and you know, for like Jalo's soundtracks, and
Nice.
Arrow. He's done stuff with Arrow. He's also part of Twins of Evil, I believe, is
Oh,
the name.
very cool.
Um, Yeah, and yeah, I mean, Born to Win this feels like home for us because it's a fun
Yeah.
city. It's literally a fun city movie, and I think people sort of expect something like that to come from Fun City Editions, and also like you said, something that hasn't come out before. That's a major plus, because yeah, like you say, there's so many, there's just still so many, there's still so many treasures to be mined from that time period or from New York movies. It's just a matter of, or if the rights are available, if the movie's available, if the materials are there. We can't. Sometimes people make suggestions on stuff, and it's like, yeah, it would be great. Would love to do Night of the Juggler, but
Oh
we
yeah.
can't. I mean, this is an example of one where it's like, yeah, it'd be perfect, but if it could have been done, it would have been done by now. I'm not saying it can't ever get done, but
Not
you
to
know what
not
I'm
to
saying.
tangent too much.
You gotta have a willing partner,
Yeah, no, definitely.
So,
Not to tangent too much. Can you speak to Night of the Juggler? That's just a great, great movie. Do you know anything about the rights in terms of that one? I'm just curious, as an aside.
I mean, my understanding, um, from other people in the know, in the business, is just that the movie is one of a couple of movies that fell into the hands of a much, much, much larger company that has
Got it.
nothing to really do with film. Like a multi-billion dollar kind of
One of those.
conglomerate.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, a pharmaceutical company or something. I'm not
Oh,
totally
this
sure.
is like the Heartbreak Kid and Sleuth. I feel like
Yeah. That's Bristol Myers Squibb, but it's a different. I
different
don't. It's not the
entity,
same company as
but
far as I know,
same
but
kind of
it's a
thing.
similar concept. Yeah,
Yeah,
these are very small potatoes for a big, for a company, that's not really dealing with film, and the size of the transaction would be like, relative peanuts. So
yeah,
I think it's a matter of like, you got to really make it worth their while to get them to pick up the phone and engage
sure.
their legal departments, to do something. So
Yeah. No, I think that stuff's interesting. We don't have to go any deeper than that, but the point being is that like rights are a complicated thing, and you may see a studio logo at the beginning of a movie and go, "Oh, this is who I would contact, I guess,"
right,
or
but they
who.
don't realize, what people don't realize is that a studio may have had the rights to distribute the film theatrically 50 years ago, and it was just theatrical rights, and those rights lapsed 40 years ago, or so yeah, a studio logo at the beginning doesn't really mean anything, or a
Yeah.
studio, or if someone put it out on video again 30 years ago or something, 40 years ago, that also oftentimes doesn't mean anything anymore either, because these agreements are typically not, they're not in perpetuity.
Yeah.
They have an expiration date, and they're typically not 40-year agreements. So
Yeah, no, and I salute you and I respect the heck out of the fact that you're able to sort of detective out, who owns the rights to certain movies. In some cases, I know it can't be easy to figure that stuff out.
no, and also sometimes you just don't have people, they don't, sometimes people don't respond. You can knock on the door a bunch of times. So like I said, if they don't want to, if they're not wanting to engage and make a deal, or they want just, maybe they want really silly money, they have unrealistic expectations for the value of the property. So you know there's
Yeah.
all sorts of reasons why something doesn't happen. It doesn't have anything to do with, oh, we never thought of it, or we don't like the movie too.
Yeah.
um,
No, there's definitely some movies you and I have talked about. I won't go into details, but like wherein I know you've reached out to producers on occasion and just can't get any traction, and it's just like it's a real bummer because you really would love to see all. I know your wish list has got to be just miles long, and you've probably had a lot that you ran into those brick walls where you're like, "Yep, I really wanted that one, but it just doesn't look like it's going to happen."
well, yeah, but there's always other, there's just so much, there are so many possibilities, so there's always something else to focus on or work on. And that's the thing to focus on more on the positive, because there is like still so many things that are coming out for the first time, and that we are getting to work on and revive. And yeah, you just can't get, nothing, you're never going to be able to get to everything, or no, but there's always going to be stuff like Night of the Juggler.
Yeah. Yeah.
But who knows? If we
Yeah.
hang
Maybe
on long
something.
enough, maybe we'll be around to see Night of the Juggler come out on some official disc format.
Yeah, I mean, talk about a great Fun City movie. That would just be perfect. But yeah, no, it's good to hear that you're optimistic and that obviously you've done a lot of great work in terms of the releases you've already put out. And I know there's a lot of things.
I'm advertising here.
Yeah, I love this. Morven Caller, one of the great Fun City releases that folks should definitely check out if you haven't.
You can see the shirt here.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Beautiful. Yeah, that was a big get. Do you want to talk about that one just for a second while we're on the topic here? Like,
sure.
Talk about Morven.
Yeah. Oh well, yeah. Well, yeah. What it was one of those movies. It's a beloved film of the early 2000s, and one of the great filmmakers, and
Lynn Ramsey, baby, yeah.
And it was just like kind of a coup, I felt like, to be able to release it for the first time on in an updated home video edition, because it was just surprising that it hadn't that it was out there still. So just very proud, very happy we were able to do it.
I was and talk about an incredible performance. Samantha Morton in that film is just absolutely stunning. And yeah, that was that's like Criterion, it's a gimme. Like they've done Lynn Ramsey films. Like somehow they didn't. I just love that you got it, because I was like you, I was like, how is that not out yet? That's insane. So that's a huge one that I highly recommend folks check out from Fun City. Let me just touch on a few more things on this disc, and then I want to talk about, maybe we can see if you want to tease a little bit, maybe some things that are coming, or maybe not.
Sure,
whatever you're comfortable with. But so this is the inside cover of Born to Win with the flipped artwork, and then this has a really nice commentary track from Jason Bailey and filmmaker Michael Hull of the Fun City Cinema podcast. Jason also did a book called Fun City Cinema, which is great. I really like this track. I thought these guys were, they're a good pick to do this, because they are very much in the brand, in terms of Fun City, and they give a lot of cool information about not only the actors, but the background, like I said, with the John Lindsay stuff, and some specific things about Executive Order 10 and locations. And I really dug it. So a really solid.
Yeah, it's very much in their wheelhouse. And we just felt like, let's get the Fun City Cinema guys on board with Fun City editions, because people think we're the same as it is. So
yeah, that's mentioned in the commentary too, that like you guys were coming out at around the same time, or working on your projects at the same time. But you guys are not connected at all, honestly, and so it's neat to see that collaboration.
Right.
So then you got a little booklet here. This is obviously something that collectors really love, booklets, and this has got an essay by Justin LaLiberty about the film. And very good stuff. I was very excited to see Justin get to do some writing for the label. That's wonderful. Really, really neat.
Yeah, he wears many hats.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe he can fit them all in one head. That guy, he's just doing so much. And I've had him on the show before, and we'll definitely have him on again. But so I love this release. I just, from my point of view, you did a great job with everything about it. The transfer, the commentary, the essay, the slip is beautiful. Like, you've really sort of figured it out. Like, as a collector yourself, I think what people want, and you're just able to deliver high quality stuff. So congrats on that.
Thank you. I'm just sorry that we missed, unfortunately, sadly, George Segal passed and Yvonne Passer passed within the last couple of years. So we just sort of missed the opportunity to perhaps talk with them for this release. And and unfortunately Karen Black passed even earlier, so it really aren't too many people that were sort of crucial to this film. Obviously De Niro's in the movie, but the people that really are the main creative forces are gone. So that's why if people ask, oh, how come we try to have interviews with people, obviously, but
you
do tend to try to get the star of the film, or the filmmaker, as opposed to going way down the cast list or the credit list.
Which I appreciate. I do like, I like that when a label makes an effort, but sometimes you're like, well, this person is so far down that it's like the connection to the film is not quite as it's not quite as good as obviously the people you talk to. I mean, like for those that don't know, like Rancho Deluxe, one of my favorite Fun City releases, you've got a Jeff Bridges interview on there, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Alphabet City, you're talking to oh, why am I blanking right now?
Vincent Spano, the
Vincent Spano,
star.
yes.
We have Amos Poe, the director, on the commentary. So
Yeah, you
that's
really
a good example.
you
Yeah,
go the extra mile, which I know is not easy to do because you know it can be more expensive and it can be more difficult to wrangle those
yeah,
people, but it really
yeah.
does make a difference in the quality of the release and the extras. And again, I love that you know put that effort in. You know,
Oh, thank you. I'm
yeah,
glad it's appreciated.
absolutely, absolutely, 100%. Do you have anything at all? And again, if you're not comfortable, that you want to tease for upcoming Fun City that you're comfortable talking about? If not, no worries.
Well, when is this show gonna air? Like,
I can air it whenever you want. So we can
well,
push it back.
oh, okay, all right. So you're pushing the ball back in my court there.
Yeah, but again, don't sweat it if you don't want to talk about it. If you want to hint at even just like
Well, I'll tell you
the
this. I'll say that this is something that we teased a few months ago, several months ago, and it's coming. It's in the works. Is a new novelization slash sort of graphic novel of Walking the Edge,
I love it.
with art by Ben Mara, and it looks incredible. We've posted some of it on socials. So that's going to be really cool, and
Very exciting.
it's like a new update. It's not a straight from the screen novelization. You know, it's like an updated version of the base, you know, the sort of basic bones of the story of Walking the Edge, but it's been changed. So
That's fantastic. I
yeah,
love that.
so
I love
that's
that
going to be
kind of
coming
stuff.
out.
That's great.
I'm not sure exactly when, but soon.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
within
that's
the
another
next couple
release
months.
I highly recommend. I've talked about it on the channel and on the show, Walking the Edge. One of the great Robert Forster performances, just a great LA movie. Well, we're getting away from Fun City, but a really great, you know, alt taxi driver movie that I absolutely adore. And I've said before, but I owe you for that movie. I didn't even know the film
Really?
until yeah, no, you turned me onto it. And I went and bought that Anchor Bay DVD years ago
Oh
after
wow.
you mentioned it. So that's always
Wow.
been a Jonathan movie. And so I love that you put it out because it was just like
Wow.
perfect.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well,
Yeah, man.
that's a I call it, it's like you said, an alt taxi driver. It's a West Coast vigilante,
Yeah,
I mean,
man. Yeah.
Forster and Spinell and Jay Chataway doing the music, and they did it like right after they did it right after Vigilante. So yeah, it
Yeah.
it has, and it definitely it's definitely a time capsule.
Yeah, man, it's great. And I got lucky enough to see you had a sort of collaboration with the New Beverly Cinema here in LA, played it there, and was lucky enough to see it with a crowd. And I'm not gonna spoil it. There's a bathroom scene that
Uh,
played like gangbusters in the theater.
yeah.
So
Well,
darn good. So
yeah,
darn
that
good.
was fun. Yeah, you and I sat next to each other for that.
Beautiful.
That was a blast.
Yeah,
So
love it. I love
hopefully
that.
we'll have some more like stuff like that at the New
Oh,
Bev.
cool. Very
Yeah,
cool. Yeah, that
with
was
movies
wonderful.
that we're involved with. Yeah. So
Well, that was wonderful. Yeah. Well, we'll look forward to anything and everything coming from Fun City this year. I know it's going to be good stuff because you've only been doing good stuff thus far, and so I really want to thank you for hanging out with me and talking about Born to Win and the label in general. It's always appreciated, and like I said, we're old friends, so it's wonderful to just get to chat.
yeah. Who would have thought we'd be in this place?
Not
We've
me.
known each other for 25 years, I
At
think.
least,
So
yeah.
yeah,
It feels like right around there, yeah. And so this
yeah.
is just like I said, it's been a
We look
wonderful.
exactly the same too.
I don't know about
Um,
myself, but you definitely look like you did then.
oh,
It's
get out of
it's
here.
crazy. It's crazy.
No, that's not true. Um, but we do have a title. We will have another title, a new release announced on the first of the month,
Great.
on May 1.
May
So
1. Okay,
something else to
perfect.
look out for.
Yeah. So when people are, and I love that Vinegar Syndrome has made it like Criterion on the 15th of the month. The first of the month, we get the new title announcements, and it's just an avalanche of Vinegar Syndrome, and then all the partner labels that are putting stuff out on that particular day
Yeah,
just explodes. The website explodes with stuff.
yeah.
So
It's a lot. It's overwhelming.
It is like, it's really, but now the OCN group is become pretty difficult to stay on top of because there's just so, and I love that. I just think it's amazing. All the different label. I mean, you're my favorite partner label, but like it's really great to see everybody. There's tons of great partner labels doing a huge variety of stuff, from, independent films that are, brand new, to
Yeah,
old shot on video stuff from,
yeah,
places like Saturn's Core. I
yeah.
mean, it's nuts, that whole group. So I love
No,
that
it's
you're
a
a part of
definitely
that.
it's a nice diverse offering, and yeah, it's good that we sort of have something kind of unique going in amongst the crowd. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. So, okay. Well, I'll put this up definitely before May 1st so people can look forward to checking out the new Fun City announcement on that day. But again, thank you so much, Jonathan. It's been great to chat, man.
thank you.